Hello, this is Craig and this is another mindfulness video. This is the third practice sheet video. There'll be 10 of these going forward. So thank you for watching. So today's sheet is all about a bit about fear and a bit about how we can lean into our fears and be more comfortable with having fear. And it also talks about movement, mindfulness in a way that we can move and be graceful and slow and gentle with ourselves. So I'm going to start with talking about movement, and then we'll move into the fear bit. There's actually 3 practices on this sheet that are related to fear. And then we'll finish with a meditation, and hopefully we'll be grounded, feeling good, ready to take on the day. So let's get into it. We'll start with mindful movement there, which is on the right hand side on the sheet. So our bodies move, we move a lot. We have to, we've got to get up, we've got to do things, we've got to eat, we've got to walk, we can't just stay sitting for a long period of time. If we do, we notice we get tense and we have tightness. So having a flexible body is really important. Now, mindful movement is one way of connecting to your body in the moment with your awareness, trying not to judge your body. We do these things in body scan meditations where we scan our whole body from head to toe, and we're just asking how we're feeling and what we're thinking about, and trying to send kindness to our body. But there are moments where we can actually do movements physically in mindfulness, and there are mindful movements, and there is the 10 mindful movements that you can Google as well, and there are YouTube videos on the 10 mindful movements, and they're really good movements. I'm just going to do a couple here for you to see. So one of them is you put your hands on your shoulders like this, and you take a breath, and when you breathe in, you move your arms outwards, so till they're stretched out, and then you breathe out. Bring your hands back to your shoulders. So that's one mindful movement. What we're trying to do here is when we're focusing on our breath, we're not thinking about the past or the future, we're present in the moment. And coupled with the movement, it gives your body something to do as well, and it building up this flexibility, this gracefulness. Another one we can do is to kind of raise our hands upwards like this, breathing in, and again breathing out, lowering your arms. So as I say, it's a bit tricky for me to do this on a screen in front of a laptop. Normally when I do mindful movements, it's in a room with lots of people. So it's just giving you an idea. But it's also good to stretch, to notice when we're feeling tight. We get a lot of tightness up here in our neck and in our shoulders. So occasionally shrugging, moving your neck from side to side is useful practice. You can also do little things like this where you're doing this kind of thing. You're just, you can do it all the way down your arms, just feeling your body, just gentle movements like that. If you're focusing on those things, then you're present, you're being mindful. So it was all about kind of noticing the thoughts pulling you away always from the present moment and trying to come back to your body. So meditations are wonderful for that. You can feel your in-breath and your out-breath. You can feel your chest expanding, your lungs expanding. This is all movement. And it's nice to try and encourage slow, gentle movements. I find that we rush a lot in life. When we're rushing, we're tending to think about the future. We're tending to be in our doing mode. And sometimes we're not present with our bodies. It's nice to notice our bodies, how we're feeling. Slowness is a wonderful practice. It encourages mindfulness. Even just picking up a mug of tea, you can do it nice and slowly, just drinking your tea, enjoying that moment. It's all mindful movement. So that's very, very brief mindful movements. I would Google the 10 mindful movements. You'll get some really good mindful movements. And of course, things like yoga, etc., are complementary to mindfulness. And I would urge anyone to do these practices, qigong, those kind of things. It's very graceful moving, and it gives you the present moment. So that's mindful movements. We're now going to move on to the fear part of the video, so don't be frightened about it. I shall be very gentle. And there's 3 practices on this sheet about coping with fear. The first one is on the screen. It says spot the ego. It's got an exclamation mark there. So what do I mean by this ego, spotting the ego? And I do it. It's a fun game. I get used to spotting the ego, and it gets easier the more you practice mindfulness. But your ego is basically your resistance to something that's going on in your life. And you go into your head and you analyze and you judge what's going on. So you can be judging the weather. I've done this in previous videos. You could be getting annoyed at the rain. You might be wanting to go out in the sunshine and you can't because it's pouring down, and you're like, I can't believe that's happening. That's rubbish. When you're judging things like that, that is your ego. There it is. It's in your head, analyzing. And you're thinking about you. Ego is about the self. It's about us being separate to everything else. So we can judge everything else to cause, if we're getting disturbed inside, if our inner peace has been, moved into non-inner peace because of an external influence like the weather or a person or a situation, we can use our ego to put blame on something else or judge something else external to us. And we have a lot of righteousness there. It's kind of like, well, I'm angry because of this, or I'm fed up because of that. So that means I'm separate from these things. If only these things were different, then I would be okay. That's kind of what the ego is doing. It's trying to separate us into thinking about ourselves, into protecting us. So there's a few clues on this sheet. Do you feel a victim or wronged? Here's a clue that you've gone into your ego mind. So if someone says something to you and you get annoyed about it, or you feel a victim about it, maybe they're saying something that's not correct, and you're like, no, it wasn't like that at all, I did it this way. That's an ego response. It's defending your position. Again, it's like, I'm here and you're there. You've got it wrong, and I'm going to tell you that you've got it wrong. That's an ego trait. It's a judgmental trait. And all of these things are there to try and make us safe, to try and help us lessen fear. So ego is resisting what is in the moment, whatever happens, and it tends to come with an emotion like annoyance or anger or frustration or irritability or huffy puffy mode, as I call it. And when you're feeling uncomfortable like that, you're tending to think about yourself in that situation. It's like, I don't like this, or I wish this was different, or I don't like the rain, I wish it would go away, or I can't believe what this person is saying to me. There's an I in these statements. The I is your ego. So you can play this game, spot the ego, noticing when you go into your head and you talk about I, or me, or my, that's talking about yourself. And you might ask the question, well, what's wrong with talking about myself? What's wrong with this separation? Why can't I get annoyed? What is this non-judgment business? We have to judge at some point, don't we? This is what your ego might tell you. It might justify its reason for being there. And you find that when you let go of your ego, your awareness can take over, your present moment being can take over. And you find you can still do things and act accordingly to your own values and your morals and your beliefs and everything else. You don't need the ego for those things. What tends to happen when you're separating yourself from situations through the self, through I don't like this, there's this duality starts arising where something is good or bad, or wrong or right, or I'm this way, not that way, and that kind of duality isn't actually the truth of the way the universe works. Everything is interconnected. When we shout at someone, chances are they're going to shout back. There's a connection between two people. There's an energy field. When you're being angry and anxious and all these things, that ripples out into the field. Just as if you were joyful and happy, that would ripple out into the field too. So your ego complements the emotion, and it actually heightens your emotions as well. So this is why the ego is not great, because when you're anxious or annoyed and you're in your head blaming the other thing, this duality, this external thing, for your unhappiness, for your lack of peace, you're actually growing that emotional response in you. And it's like a stress response. So if you're angry and you're moaning about it, you'll get angrier. If you're anxious and you're still thinking about what's causing the anxiety, and you're like, I wish my anxiety would go away, I hate anxiety, if only this situation would change, I wouldn't be anxious, you're actually feeding your anxiety with those statements. The ego isn't helping you release the emotional response, it's actually adding to it. So notice when you're thinking about yourself, you're judging things, you're separating from other things, you're blaming things for your own inner peace, because these things will increase your emotional response. So if you're an anxious person, or you're an angry person, or you get annoyed easily, or you have strong emotions and you feel heavy, your body's tense, tired, all of these things, notice if your mind is saying I don't like, or I'm judging this. It's judgment, basically. And this spot the ego practice is noticing that you're doing it and not beating yourself up about it. Like, I shouldn't be thinking about me, that's just more ego. It's kind of like, okay, I've noticed that I'm saying I, me, and my in my statements. I'm noticing I'm separating from this thing. I'm making that thing the reason for my emotion. But actually, in the present moment, in mindfulness, I am feeling this. That is true. My awareness is noticing that I'm anxious, and that's it. Your anxiety is not necessarily due to what you're thinking about, or what's going on in the situation. You're used to being anxious. Sometimes we can be anxious just in seconds, and it's mainly, this ego is based on past experiences and past memories and things like that. So it comes back in the moment and you feel this. So being with this is mindfulness. You're letting go of all judgment. It's like, I'm anxious. Yes, I notice I'm anxious. In that case, is not a judgment, it's a statement of fact. If you're judging the situation, then you're no longer present, you're in the future or the past. So it's like, I don't like that. You've judged something from the past. Or I wish the future would be different, is thinking about the future. Those things are not present. You don't have any presence, and these thoughts will generate, and their ego thoughts, resisting what is, will generate stronger emotions. So spot the ego is a lovely practice. Not to beat yourself up, it's to notice, my goodness, I'm thinking about the past or the future. I'm judging the past or the future. I'm judging this situation. I'm blaming or criticizing this on my happiness. Actually, if I let go of all of those thoughts and just come back to the moment, I can find my happiness. Even if I've got an emotion, I can be with it with kindness and compassion. I don't need to blame a single person. I am this way. I feel this. Okay, I'm going to breathe with that. So we're going to talk about that in a second. So let's spot the ego. And as I say, the theme is fear here. So here we go, pushing into lesser fears I've got here. And fear is a bit of a habit. It's something that we're used to doing. So as I say, with anxiety is a type of fear, or anger is a type of fear as well. These are fear-based emotions which come from your ego thoughts of not being present, as I've discussed. So spotting the ego is actually, letting go of your ego is actually leaning into your fear already. It's kind of like, well, okay, I'm noticing I'm feeling worried about this thing. That's noticing the anxiety. Can I stay with the anxiety? Can I lean into that anxiety? This is what I call pushing into a lesser fear. Anxiety, you could say, is a lesser fear. Panic might be a greater fear. So you notice that in situations, you're in a supermarket queue and you're getting bothered. You're annoyed. You're like, I can't believe this supermarket queue is disturbing my inner peace. I don't like this queue. I wish this queue would go away. This is the ego past and future stuff. So that's generating a feeling of annoyance in you. What this practice is saying is to try and stay in that situation, trying to breathe and trying to come back to your moment. That's leaning into the fear. You're not growing your fear because you're letting go of your thoughts. You're letting go of ego. You're just with your fear. It's like, and you might think annoyance isn't a fear, but it is. There's a fear behind it all. Otherwise, you wouldn't be annoyed. You might be worried about meeting someone later and you might be running out of time because you're stuck in this queue. So that heightens that kind of fear of being late. There's something going on that's disturbing your inner peace. When we're relaxed and we're peaceful, there isn't any fear. We're in our love state. I always say we're either in fear or love to simplify it. So when we're in fear, we're bothered, we're resisting, we're unhappy, we're judgmental. The more we're in those situations, even in simple situations like being in a queue in a supermarket, is feeding those kind of ways that we behave. So it's a habit. If you get annoyed at a supermarket queue, then you'll always get annoyed when you're in a queue. There'll be that precursor to get annoyed. But if you catch it with your mindfulness and you breathe and you're like, I'm just standing here, I'm at this point of the queue. This is good mindful practice just to breathe in, breathing out. I'm fine where I am. It's okay. I accept everything. If I accept the moment, I don't need to think about the future or the past or get upset over them. I can just be in the present. This is what I mean. This is you're leaning into your emotions. You're not using your thoughts, your ego to feed them, to make them bigger. You're letting go. You're in the moment. I'm at this queue. Okay. It's raining. Okay. Can you accept these things? Can you notice when you can't? Noticing when you can't is what this practice is about. And then if you manage, to stay with a fear like that, you've sat with your feelings a bit more, that's amazing practice. I always find it nice to give myself a pat on the back and reward myself a bit, which is a bit of ego, really. It's kind of like, oh, you've done a good job there. But you're trying to be positive about things. It's kind of like, you know what, I stood in that queue for an hour and I didn't get upset. That's pretty cool, you know. That's really good. So that's when I sort of say reward when it goes well is kind of give yourself kindness that you're doing it. Don't beat yourself up when it doesn't work and you get annoyed and you're back in your head again. This happens a lot with people. It can be really tough. If someone says something and it drives you nuts and you're angry about it, you could be like, I can't believe they said that. That was rubbish and that wasn't true, and I'm really annoyed at them. And maybe if I plot revenge next time I see them, or maybe I'll do this, or maybe I'll do that. And you know what? I'm in my head, and I'm in the future, and I'm in the past, and I'm angry. Is the truth. That's it. At this moment, I feel anger. So I'm going to do the next practice on here, which is sitting with demons. I'm going to sit with my anger. So there's a few cartoony monsters there. One's got anxiety and regret. In fact, you can't see the bottom one. I'm just going to scroll down to it. It's going to be loneliness. There we are. So what are these demons that keep coming back? We have loneliness quite a lot. We get anger quite a bit. If we're very judgmental in our heads talking about us, if we're in our ego, if our I is the center of our life, then there's duality. There's like, I am separate to everything else. Everything else can cause me lots of problems. Everything else is a bother. I'm stressed by everything else. I'm wound up by everything else. That's what feeds these emotions. That's what feeds the demons. And I call them demons. Because most of the time we look at them and we don't like them. They're like enemies to us. It's like, if only I could get rid of these demons. If only I wasn't lonely anymore. If only I wasn't anxious anymore. I'm fed up being angry all the time, we're fighting them all the time. And that's not the way. By fighting them, you actually make them bigger. Because actually, they're there to help us. These emotions, these demons, if you like, they're actually friendly. They're not here to cause us a bother. They're here to wake us up, to come back to the moment. When you're anxious, it's because you're thinking about the future. When you're angry, it's probably because you're judging the past. It's telling you, your body is telling you to come back to the moment. These are gifts. These emotions are signals to come back. So using it in that way, reframing them in that way, they become friends, not enemies. They're not something to get rid of. They're something to be with when they come up, because they're waking you up. If you notice you're anxious, you can breathe with it, and that is the way. It's kind of like, okay, I'm noticing anxiety in me. I'm noticing anger in me. I'm angry. How does anger feel in me right now? I'm not going to think about what it is that triggered the anger, what that person said. I'm not going to be plotting revenge. That would be ego. I'm not going to resist the past. We had that argument yesterday. Why am I still thinking about it? I'm in the past. Why am I bothered by it? I'm bothered. Right. Botheringness, angerness is here. It's present in me right now. So I'm going to welcome this in, because this is a signal for me to wake up. So, okay, anger, thank you. Welcome. You've come again. Nice to see you. It's almost like opening the door and there's the demon in front of you, and you're like, right, come on in, invite you in. Do you want some cup? You want a cup of tea? Do you want a slice of cake? Let's have a seat here. Let's discuss why you're here. So it's curiosity is that discussion. It's getting curious about why the demon is there. And it's like, okay, I'm angry. There's still something about me that's not peaceful. There's still something that triggers this anger. It's been there for years, and this thing has triggered it. Well, welcome, anger. My old friend, pull up a chair. And you know what? Let's breathe, because you're here. It's like, almost like your demon is your child within. It's your young self come back to say hi. When you're angry at 5, it's the same feeling right now. So you would treat it just like you would treat a child who's angry or anxious or nervous. You wouldn't tell the child to go away. You wouldn't moan and groan at the child. It's not going to help the child if you do those things. What would help the child is to be present with the child with openness and kindness and compassion. So this is self-compassion, is noticing that you're angry, and it's like, okay, I'm angry. I'm noticing that thoughts are feeding this anger. I need to let go of ego. I've spotted my ego. Let's let go of that. Let me lean into this anger. I'm going to find a breathing space. So I recommend everyone has a breathing space at home, a cushion, a chair, somewhere where they can sit and just be uninterrupted and breathe with that emotion. It's very important stuff. So you're like breathing deeply, breathing in anger, and you could imagine your anger as this hot black smoke, and then you breathe out calmness. So you're imagining light and kindness and, rays of sunshine coming out of you. You're transforming this black smoke into light. You can transform your anger and your anxiety into an action. Sometimes anger creates determination in us to do something else, or anxiety gives us a sense of, well, maybe that's not the right way for me to go. Maybe I need to go down this way. You get wisdom from these emotions, but you have to calm the emotions in order to get the wisdom. Because when we're in those emotions, we tend to act in quite an irrational, fearful way. So breathing in with your anger, breathing out the calmness, you breathe in the hot smoke, you breathe out the white light. You do this for as long as it takes for your anger to diminish in you. And it will lessen when you sit with it in this way and you breathe with it in this way. The same goes for anxiety and regret and loneliness, because loneliness, again, we're lonely because our ego is telling us that it's no good. We're having this judgmental attitude. It's like, I wish someone was here. It's a future thought. Or I can't believe that I'm still on my own. That's a past thought, and it's judging the fact that you're on your own. The truth of the matter is, I'm sitting in a room. There isn't anyone around, and I'm feeling something, and I'm calling it loneliness. But you know what? If I breathe with that feeling, what does it feel like in my body? Is it tension? Is my heart beating faster? Am I sore? Is my heart rate going faster, or what is it? What is it to feel that feeling? Can I accept that I'm feeling it? Can I breathe with it? Breathing in loneliness, breathing out calmness. The visual smoke and light is useful for all of these things. But you're not moaning about being lonely. You're not judging the fact that you're lonely. The same goes for sadness. You are sad. You are feeling these things. It's okay to feel these things. We don't try and get rid of any of these things. We try and be with them with kindness and acceptance and breathe to try and calm them and transform them. And you find you can manage to do this. It helps with every single emotion you have. And then over time, these emotions are less within you because you're dealing with them when they come up. And they don't have to stay for too long. They might pop up. You might get the odd nerves. And you're like, it's fine. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm nervous. Yeah, well, I've got to do a presentation. I've got to do a video on YouTube. That's pretty nerve-wracking. Well, breathing in nervousness, breathing out calmness. I'm going to sit for a little while. A couple of minutes sometimes is all it takes. Letting go of your thoughts, letting go of your ego. Cups of tea help. I always find holding the mug. Grounding yourself in awareness is is the way. And you breathe with these things, and it eases, and you can carry on doing the presentation or the video, and you get through, and you're more rational when you're doing it. So that is the sheet. That's how to deal with fear-related situations. You notice your thoughts, your ego. You notice them and you say, can I let go of I? Can I let go of blaming or judging this thing? Can I do that? Can I come back to the moment? Maybe, you know. Can I breathe with the moment? Can I ground myself with cups of tea and my chair that I'm sitting on or a stone that I'm holding? Can I enter the being mode? You know, let's not think about past and future. Can I be present? Maybe. Do I have an emotion? Yeah, yeah, I'm tense, you know, yeah, I'm noticing it. I'm noticing it in my neck and my shoulders, so I can do my movements, you know, let's do that. I'm going to sit for a bit. Let me breathe. Let me come back to myself. Let me enter the present. Because when you're present, there's no judgment. You're just with a feeling or with a situation, and all these things change. So when you're sitting in that, things will change. Once you finish sitting, you'll feel different to when you started sitting. And if you're breathing and filling your body with oxygen, and you're being slow and mindful, you find that the emotions lessen too, and you'll be able to survive and get on no problem at all with things. So that's the sheet. I really hope that's helpful. It's difficult. Some of these things are difficult because some of the feelings do feel uncomfortable. But I guarantee if you welcome them in and you're grateful for having them and you accept them and you treat them like a young child by giving them hugs, and cups of tea, and welcoming them in, that your life will start to change and your emotions won't control you. It'll be the other way around. So, so that's the sheet, and we'll finish with a meditation, as I always do. So we'll actually try a sitting with an emotion meditation here. So just relax. Just invite you to close your eyes, if you like, and I will guide you through. I have my singing bowl here, so I shall make the noise, and here we go to begin. So just begin by noticing your breath, noticing your in-breath and your out-breath. Feeling the air as you breathe in, feeling the air as you breathe out. Breathing in, you know you're breathing in. Breathing out, you know you're breathing out. Just taking this moment just to observe how you're feeling. Noticing the chair that you're sitting on, ground under your feet. Just enjoy focusing on your breath for a few moments. Noticing if your mind wanders and bringing it back to your breath. And then very gently want you to just visualize the situation that you might be in at the moment that's maybe causing you a bit of emotion. Maybe something a bit anxious about the future, or something that's maybe sad or difficult. And as you visualize the situation, just put your hand on your tummy. Just see if you can identify in you what emotion it is that's being caused by that visualization, by that image or thought. You might begin to feel slight tension or anxiety. And then just befriend that anxiety or that feeling and just breathe with it. Breathing in the feeling, breathing out, calming the feeling. Just let go of the thoughts and the vision in your mind and just be with what your body is feeling like just now. Breathing in deeply, breathing out slowly. Just knowing that every time you manage to do this, give space and calmness to any emotion, welcoming it into the present, being with it, guiding it, breathing. So just take a few more conscious breaths. And then just when you're ready, smile, open your eyes, come back to where you are. Okay, thank you for doing that short meditation with me, which was just trying to gently notice that sometimes our thoughts can generate an emotion in us, and by being with it with kindness and acceptance will help ease that emotion by letting go of the thought as well, being aware of yourself. It can be a hugely healing process. So thank you for watching this video. You can get this sheet as a reminder if you visit www.craig-gilbert.com and click on the video link on the front page. And this is Mindful Practice 3. So if you scroll down to that, you'll be able to download this sheet, which will give you a reference for what I've been speaking about. But do check out the 10 mindful movements as well. They're really good. Very good practice to do that, just slowing yourself down. The aim of slowing and the aim of gentle kindness to yourself is lovely practice. It will really help you. And trying to let go of being too fixated on you is also an amazing practice. You start to see everything else and the interconnectedness. And it starts opening your heart and making you kinder to yourself and others, and compassionate to others as well. And you know that you're on the right path when you're more compassionate for everybody and everything without judging. So thank you very much for watching, and I will speak to you again another time. So take care and have a lovely day, whatever it is that you're doing. Bye bye.